Please subscribe before watching the movie. Welcome back to Movies Recap. The episode opens amidst a heavy thunderstorm. Martha and Ash, a young and loving couple, have stopped at a gas station for some coffee. Ash seems to be a social media freak, so much so that he even misses Martha calling out to him to open the car door. Martha chuckles fondly and knowingly, as if this is not the first time this has happened. Then, bellowing Bee Gees song lyrics, the couple drives away into the distance. The scene changes and we see Martha and Ash moving their belongings into a quaint cozy home in the country. Again, Ash is absorbed in his phone as he posts a funny childhood picture of himself online. Martha comes to sit beside him and he begins to reminisce about his past. His mom had moved the picture frames of his brother and father into the attic after their deaths, and in her grief, she slowly became distant to her only son left alive. Saddened, Martha kisses her melancholic partner on the forehead, and the couple go on to spend the night blissfully in their new. They have no idea that this will be their last night together. The next morning, Ash is supposed to return their rented van to its owner by 2 in the afternoon. He asks Martha to come with him. She, however, is unable to do so as she has a job as an illustrator and a new assignment needs to be submitted. By the end of the day, Ash leaves and Martha, peacefully unaware of what is about to happen, goes on about her. The night grows darker and Ash still hasn't returned. Martha becomes worried as her callers repeatedly go to voicemail. Her distress skyrockets when the renting company says that the van hasn't been returned at all. While on the phone with her sister, Naomi, Martha hears police sirens numbly. She walks towards the front door, and just as she catches the glimpse of the cops' faces, her Ash is dead. Another cut. Martha arrives at the funeral where one of her friends, Sarah, starts to ramble about her own grievances. She goes on about how nothing felt real when Mark, someone dear to her, presumably her partner, passed away. The people didn't feel real and whatever they spoke felt almost otherworldly. As if everything around her was surreal, incomprehensible. We witness that Martha is getting frustrated by this and not a place to compare one's misery, but Sarah doesn't stop. She tells her about a service that helped her mourn Mark by allowing her to speak with him. She offers to sign Martha up for it. Martha persistently rejects the idea. When Sarah continues on, she shouts at her to stop and hastily leaves the room in tears. The scene cuts and we see Martha trying to move. Albeit in her own way, she diligently goes to work and comes back home to paint the walls. The doorframe is marked with Ash's childhood height measurements, and she makes sure to not cover up those memories. She tries to forget about it by throwing herself into a myriad of household chores. But the house is swarming with reminders of her dear boyfriend, be it the attic in the form of childhood souvenirs or the living room with his pictures. Ash is everywhere. It often forces Martha to take a break as she spirals down the memory lane, only finding solace in a glass of wine. A few days later, when she receives a message from Ash Starmer, her boyfriend, who also died some time ago. Perplexed, she scrolls down her emails and finds out that Sarah has signed her up for the program without her consent. Furious, she rages at Sarah that it is sick for the system to use Ash's name when he's dead. Sarah explains that since Ash was so active online, the program will use all his public data to make a similar personality, who Martha can talk with. Still, Martha feels repulsed by the idea, feeling as if she is betraying Ash's memory. The next day we see Martha sprinting to the bathroom. She throws up and panic fills her up. Anxious, she takes a pregnancy test. It comes up positive. She is with child. She calls her sister frantically, but Naomi can't hear her phone ring as she is busy with her own children. Are seen to go by slowly when Martha, all on her, contact the program Sarah signed her up for. By chatting with him through messages, she finds out that this virtual personality of Ash has the same witty humor that her Ash did. She becomes emotional and it almost starts to feel like her dead love has returned to her. She tells him about her pregnancy and they chat into the night. Martha has the urge to talk to Ash to hear his voice again. She hadn't known that all those days ago, the amusing conversations she had with him about the rented van would be the last she'll hear of him. She uploads personal pictures and videos of him into the system's database, so that the virtual personality can better replicate Ash's voice and mannerisms. She gets a call from the software and is moved when he sounds exactly like the real Ash. She fears she is going mad, but also starts to believe that she is talking to her deceased partner. Moving on, Martha is on a hike, talking to Ash and telling him all about their inside jokes and stories. For a moment, Martha feels as if she is returning to the person she used to be before Ash's death. She tells him about the views and how the real him was never impressed with landscapes, often throwing jabs at how the places looked similar, simple and green. It is also revealed that Ash, the software, can process visuals using the camera on Martha's mobile phone. Yet all is not as fine as it seems to be. Martha gets irked by even the slightest dissimilarities in the way Ash and the android talk. She grows addicted to talking to him repeatedly, ignoring her sister's calls. Next, Martha is going through an ultrasound at the doctor's clinic. She excitedly records the baby's heartbeat only to have a panic attack when she drops the phone, when she tries to show Ash the recording going. She fixes the phone and calls Ash back in hysterics, afraid that she's lost him again. He consoles her by assuring that breaking the phone does not break him as he is just a software soon. The calls are not enough for Martha anymore. She wants something more. Just as she expresses that, Ash explains that there is another level to this system, but that it is a bit more pricey and experimental. The intrigue builds and we cut to the next. 2 delivery men carry a huge box into Martha's house. She lets out a gasp when she sees what's inside: body parts, artificial body parts, as virtual Ash promises. Martha is concerned that it doesn't look like him, but he says that it needs to be activated first. Following his instructions, Martha submerges his body into our bathtub, along with some electrolytes. Virtual Ash disconnects the call, saying that he will upload himself into the. Once it has finished, the activation process, some time has passed. When Martha hears faint shuffling from the bathroom upstairs, she timidly moves towards the sound as it becomes louder and louder. Footsteps echo across the stairs. She stands still there. He is her Ash in the flesh with a concerning lack of clothes. He lets out a witty remark. As Martha continues to gaze at him, strangely, Martha's stress grows as she starts noticing the differences between the real and artificial Ash. The one in front of her doesn't need to eat or sleep. His skin is too smooth and he always looks like the best version of Ash. He is even missing a mole on his collarbone, though it appears. Just as Martha points that out, regardless of that, she begins sleeping with him. Martha is still trying to come to terms with the android Ash when Naomi arrives on. She frantically asks Ash to hide in the bathroom as her sister invites herself in. The two of them end up hanging out for the whole day just when Naomi's about to leave. She says that she's happy that Martha is moving on because she saw men's clothing in the bathroom. Martha is distressed by this observation. She feels as if she is betraying her real partner by burdening herself with trying to love the artificial one. Now, the most minor of differences between the two versions almost seem like to be the size of mountains. That Martha asks Ash to pretend to be sleeping because she is unable to fall asleep in the eerie silence. When Ash complies, she realizes that it's not real and forces him to leave the room again. He follows her instructions like a robot would, resulting in her lashing out. The real Ash would put up an argument when asked to leave like that. Finally, grasping that this Ash cannot and does not feel emotion, Martha demands him to leave the house immediately. He, of course, obeys. The next morning, Martha is perplexed to find Ash standing near the fence, and he explains that he can't go more than 25 meters away from his activation point, the bathtub, unless his administrator, Martha, is with him, not understanding why that frustrates Martha. He goes back to his witty remarks just like any other day after having. Martha finds android Ash standing in the living room holding the childhood picture of real Ash that we saw in the beginning of the film. He calls it funny. We cut to Martha and artificial Ash in a car listening to BJ's lyrics. Martha drives Ash to a cliff looking towards the beach. Ash, unaware that anything is wrong, continues with his humor. They stop and Martha asks him to jump over. Her anger grows as she sees that Ash is ready to follow her instructions. She knows that a real person would have been scared. Finally, she lets out her thoughts. She rages that he is nothing but a cheap copy of what Ash was to the public, and he will never compare to him as she asks him to jump again. He retaliates by prying, begging for his own. Martha grows distraught by his response, mumbling that it's not fair. Again and again in the next scene, it seems like we have skipped ahead a few years as Martha celebrates her daughter's birthday in the same house in the countryside. When the cake slices are being cut, her daughter asks for another slice to take upstairs. We then find out that artificial Ash has been living in the attic ever since the confrontation on the cliff, and he sees Martha's daughter every weekend. The little girl offers him cake and then sneakily says that she knows he does not eat. The episode ends with the daughter excitedly asking her mother to come up and hang out with her. And Ash, Martha, meanwhile is lost in thought after hearing Ash treating her daughter just as a father would. She listens to her daughter, call down to her, and joins.